Welcome to Spark Love. I'm Sumi.
And I'm Ray.
We created this space to share how we took our relationship from toxic to extraordinary.
To be able to improve, we gotta talk, and that's what we're here for.
Come with us on a journey where we will openly discuss all of our challenges and our stories. This is Spark Love. Welcome to another episode of Spark Love. My name is Sumi.
And my name is Ray.
Today we are going to be talking about love languages and the expectations that we place around them.
That's right. So expectations around love languages, but what are love languages and how they affect our relationships, and of course a few stories and examples, just the whole journey. So I improvised last episode at the end, like, oh, next week we're gonna talk about this, and I actually don't know really much about it. You have done like Facebook lives and stuff about this, so I'll be more of a learner in this episode. But I have some examples to share and some interesting topics that you found for us. So you'll be guiding us this time. So
I have been learning a lot about love languages. I've watched a lot of videos around it. I have read a lot about it. I have shared this with people that I've worked with, and it has helped. Like, I've shared this with the people that are around me, and it is something that is very impactful. It's impactful to realize that we have love languages.
Yeah, I remember in the previous episode I also said, like, wow, when I found out about this for the first time, when you were doing the NLP certification, and I don't know, I think it was a quiz or something, that we started discovering this. It was like, wow, what the hell, this is so true, but I had no idea about it. So anyways, we wanted to share with you guys the details, our opinions and our personal journey around love languages, and you know how life changing it was to get our heads wrapped around this concept, and realize how it affects everything. It has huge impact in your relationship, so it's very important to understand it.
And then having that awareness of going back and thinking about how it was in previous relationships where you had no idea about the subject, and how different it was. The beliefs that were created around that, the expectations that were created around not knowing about the subject, about thinking that everybody has the same way of loving.
All right, so what's in it for you today in this episode? We're going to be diving into the importance of love languages, what they are, and some examples. And for that, we need to get started with understanding what it is about. So
lasting relationships, like anything, take intentional commitment over time. But when you're just not on the same page in your relationship, keeping your love alive can feel overwhelming, frustrating, or even impossible.
Especially on the internet. A few couples actually seem to find like the secret, you know, of keeping love alive, keeping that fire burning. And in our case, we are lucky to mutually agree that that's how it is for us. We experience it like that. So it has to do with this. So
yeah, we have had a very amazing 6 and a couple of months 6 years and a couple of months to realize how alive our relationship is. So yes, I believe that the problem is that we overlook one fundamental truth, and that is that people speak different love languages, just like people speak different languages. Like, I speak English, you speak Spanish. We all speak different languages, and love has different languages.
Right. So to get into the definition of what love languages is, I would like to give my take on it, and then maybe you can add on to it. So like any type of languages, love languages are the ways in which we can express love, and they're more or less categorized. There's like some like common agreement of different categories of love languages. There's 5. It's like they accept the one we're going over today at least, and yeah, depending on your personality and your experiences, you will incline towards, you know, 1 or 2, and not so much towards another 1 or 2. So we actually happen to have similar love languages, but we didn't know anything about this a few years ago. When we learned about it, we were like, oh wow, cool, we have these in common. And then also like, oh well, those we didn't have in common. And we could look back at our own story and be like, oh, okay, so we communicate love differently in certain situations. So that's what it is about for me. It is how you express love. In some people's love languages can be toxic and negative, and they're still trying to express love. So we're gonna go over like generalities. It doesn't mean if it's positive or negative, but like what are the ways in which you can potentially express love to others, and how you expect to be loved back, what you expect others to consider forms of love.
Yeah, so it is exactly that. Love languages are the way in which we communicate our love to each other through different ways of showing up around the people that we care about, how we interact with them. And there are 5 main ones, yes, and we many times relate to a lot of them, and we also sometimes
Which one?
and we also don't relate to others of them. Like, for example, I have one that is 0. Like, and it's the same. The one that we both have 0 is the same, and we'll get into that. But yeah, so love languages is the understanding of the way that we express love.
People have different love languages, and we kind of expect others to have the same as us, even though we might not even know which ones are ours. That is most probably what we expect other people have, and we, when we don't get that type of love language back, we start worrying like, oh, does that person love me? That, you know, am I even important to them? Just because the way they're communicating love to you is not the one that you're expecting, because you are expecting the same one you have, even if you don't know that that's still the situation. So
yes, let me give you a little example. So say there is a man and a wife, and the man says, I tell her how beautiful she is, I tell her I love her, I tell her what a good mother she is, and none of it seems to matter. She says that she doesn't feel my love, and I don't know what else to do. And the wife's response is, if he loved me, he would help me around the house. All he does is watch TV. Oops. So the problem, you ask, is he's using words and she is crying for actions. So if he wants her to feel loved and seen, then he needs to learn how to speak to her in her love language. And
so
it is...
there's a name for that one, so that specific case it perfectly fits in one of the love languages. Yes. The one that she is craving and the one that the guy is giving.
Yeah, so we're gonna share with you guys what they are in a bit, but here's a thought.
A thought?
Yes, so a thought. The thought, many people have this thought. This is a common thought. I've noticed it, the pattern. is a very prominent pattern in couples, is the thought that he or she doesn't love me because ... like in the story, right? In the little example I gave, where he doesn't love her because he doesn't help around the house, right? Yeah. So he doesn't love me because he doesn't this, or that is a very common thought to have.
Yeah, which
and
is sometimes not discussed, right?
There's
something
it's suppressed. It's suppressed. We suppress this. I know we have had the same, right? Both you and I have experienced it. I remember not knowing what I was experiencing, but very much after learning about it, being a little bit mind blown to think back to past relationships and be like, wow, I see how I believe this person didn't love me because they weren't speaking my language, but none of us knew about this, and we were just communicating the way we knew how.
So just by this showing up in your podcast, or reading it up on the internet or Instagram post, this whole concept of love languages, it just never ran into my life before, or if it did, I ignored it. But when the one time that it showed up, it was like you're saying, like looking back and previous relationships and our own relationship, and be like, wow, no wonder why this and that. So anyways, it's really very basic thing about any type of relationships, even with parents, with friends. It's the same. It's like a universal thing, that the way we communicate love. It's something that needs to be discussed. I seriously invite whoever's listening to this, like, go and figure out your own. We actually have some resource that we'll share with you later. And discuss it with your partner, right? Like, talk about it, because it is so overwhelmingly impactful to have this understood and talked about in depth, because it defines a lot of what makes you happy in a relationship, and defines a lot of that, keeping that flame alive, like we were saying. So it's very important to have that on the table. So why don't we finally explain which one are the 5?
Yes, let's get to it.
So will you read them, rather?
Yeah, sure. So number 1 is words of affirmation. So this is you using words to build each other up. So an example could be, thank you for taking out the garbage.
You're welcome.
Not, it's about time you took the garbage out. Right, so building up with your words of admiration and gratitude. Number 2 is gifts. So this is giving a gift that makes you feel like this person is thinking about me. Look what they got for me. Number 3 is acts of service, which is doing something for your partner that you know they would like. So cooking a meal, washing the dishes.
Yeah, doing stuff for them.
Yeah, just getting them, like running little errands, bringing them things to eat, right? Just giving them that, like, active service.
I see it as doing things for them.
Yeah, doing things for them, right? And quality time, number 4 is quality time, by which I mean giving your spouse undivided attention. And this could be in the form of going for a walk on the beach, sitting on the sofa and talking for hours and hours, like we do.
We do this so much.
We do this all the time. Like we are huge on quality time, which is actually interesting, because although we're huge on quality time, we've had our fair share of misunderstandings and arguments about this, like feeling. Even though we have this in common, this is another thing to address, I think, is even though you might have a love language in common, doesn't mean you necessarily know how to communicate it so well. Just with any language, right? You need to learn how to communicate it. So even if you are only now aware, like when we became aware of what our love languages were, it didn't mean that we 100% knew how to communicate. I mean, even now we don't know 100%.
Exactly. It's just understanding which one you speak the most and second most, and
yeah, even
keeping
third
building at it.
most. Like I have three dominant ones. They're all quite dominant for me, and then I have two that are like not really relevant. So, and then we have physical touch, which is holding hands, hugging, kissing.
That's number 5.
Number 5. What did I say?
Physical. You didn't say the.
Oh, physical touch, which is, like I mentioned, holding hands, hugging, kissing, making love.
Some sexy.
And these are all expressions of love. So those are the 5 love languages. And out of these 5, we all have a primary love language, which is the way we are more likely to communicate our love. But we also have ones that speak to us a little bit less, and then we have some that maybe don't resonate with us at all.
Like you don't give it, you don't speak it, and you don't understand it.
Yeah, like it's just not part of your vocabulary.
Right, so just to sum it up and summarize it, we said number 1, words of affirmation. Can you scroll up, please? Scroll up. No, because it's not the same order. Number 1, words of affirmation. Number 2, gifts. Number 3, acts of service. Number 4, quality time. And number 5, physical touch. Right, so we have like a little chart that expresses for all 5 different love languages how to communicate to people who speak that love language, and what actions to take and things to avoid. So if you are communicating with someone whose love language is words of affirmation, then you want to communicate by encouraging them, affirming, appreciating them, and listen, paying attention to when they are speaking, listen actively to what they're saying. So that's how to communicate with someone with preference for words of affirmation. What actions to take? Send them an unexpected note, an email, a message, do some communication of how you feel about them, how you appreciate them, how they are important in your world or in the world. So that's a recommended action. And things to avoid would be not recognizing or not appreciating their effort. If you have someone who cares about being affirmed with words and they're doing a good job at something and they love you, they will expect you to recognize their effort and acknowledge it and tell them good things about it. That's how they would feel loved. And if you don't, they might feel you don't love them, because in their love language, loving you is to tell you you did well when you are making an effort. So words of affirmation. The next one, physical touch. I know someone who likes physical touch.
I do
somewhere
so
around
much,
here.
so much.
Right, so how to communicate non-verbal use of body language and touch to show love. This is not difficult, guys. You know it. Just, touchy. And actions to take, hugs, kisses, cuddling, just holding hands, physical proximity and closeness.
Yeah, cuddling, just like lying on the bed cuddling.
Yes.
Being there, holding each other. That's what, guys, it's my number 1, so.
And things to avoid for someone who cares about physical touch is physical neglect, like rejecting them, not giving any love, or on the other hand, being physically abusive, like hurting them physically. For someone who cares about physical love, those would be that don't do that. It's gonna hurt them a lot. So how about you speak about receiving gifts? That's another love language.
Receiving gifts.
One we don't have at all.
Yeah, so this is interesting. We're going to share a resource with you guys at the end, which is a test about love languages. And it basically breaks them down into percentages. And both of us have 0 for gifts. Receiving and giving gifts. Okay, so if you have a love language that is receiving gifts for the person you want to communicate with, how to communicate would be thoughtfulness. So making your partner a priority, and the idea of presence and the things that they enjoy and care about. So showing them that you care about them.
Yeah, that you know their details and their preferences,
you know what
here's
it
something
is.
I knew you wanted.
You know what it is that they want, the things that they like, their little favorites. Sorry. Okay, so actions to take will be giving thoughtful gifts and gestures. So little things you know that they like, just presenting them with little gifts and little gestures. Expressing gratitude when receiving gifts. So if they give you something, to be grateful for that and to express that gratitude for what it is that they gave, because it comes with a lot of love. It's not
even
just
if you don't care about gifts.
Even if you don't care about gifts.
That person does, and that's how they love you.
I have a beautiful friend, my best friend. She is incredible, and she loves getting me things. She loves buying me things, and I am grateful every single time. Super grateful. But I struggle so much to think of getting gifts. Like, it's just not there. It's 0% for me. Luckily, we have other love languages in common, so it's good. This is the cool thing of knowing your love languages. So you know that if one is not in alignment with your partner or anyone else, that there is a way to
still give love. As long as they understand, right? You and your friend understand that from each other.
We both know that our love languages, our main ones, are so different, and so we find a neutral one. And then things to avoid if this person is a love language is gift, is unenthusiastic gift receiving. So getting a gift from someone and being like, oh, great, thank you, or not being grateful and not saying thank you, or not showing much interest in the fact that you're receiving a gift, like it's just an ordinary thing. And forgetting special occasions. So when you have your anniversary, maybe forgetting your anniversary is not going to be the best idea.
Forgetting their birthday.
Forgetting their birthday. Important dates, things that matter to them or to you as a couple, like important couple dates.
So buy a little present if your partner likes receiving gifts and buys you gifts randomly. That is a hint that they are in that love language.
Yeah. Okay, so quality time. Quality time is how to communicate in quality time would be uninterrupted and focused conversation. So like I mentioned before, sitting on the couch or the sofa. I call it a couch. What do you call it, a sofa? A couch?
We call things the same by now.
So you're just chilling and having conversations. Not just how was your day and listen to everything that happened in each other's days and talk about work, but like having conversations, meaningful conversations about things that you guys have in common that matter to you, discussing important subjects. One-on-one time is important, so taking the time out to spend with each other, going on little adventures, doing whatever it is that you guys have in common, like just whatever it is that you like to do, right? We all have different things, right? And I love going on adventures. We love sitting on the sofa for hours and talking. That's why we started a podcast, so we can talk for hours and you guys can actually get to hear some of the things that we say.
So a little note here. The most recent time we took this quiz, we actually both got this one to be the highest score, but you have gotten physical touch as the first before. But I was surprised that quality time is my primary love language, at least at the minute, right now in this time of my life. And I have to say, even though that is the case, we actually have a very, I don't know what adjective to use, but we have a practice of planning for our one-on-one time consistently. Like every week there will be, what are we doing on the weekend, what are we doing alone on the weekend. Like sometimes it has been neglected, and because of that, then there's the importance of making time for that. So quality time is something that we both care about so much. It's like in one or two position, and still it takes active effort to making it happen.
And it has caused friction. It has caused some unhappiness as well, even though we both have this in common. All right, mine is strange because like I took the quiz and I took it twice, and the first time physical touch was my highest, and then the second time quality time was my highest. But all three of them, the third one being words of affirmation, they're all three very close. And when after learning about them and paying attention to them, I was able to realize those three are very close. Like they're all very present for me. If I am not receiving love in those three ways, I feel it. Like it's not just one or two of them, but all three of them are really important for me. And they're really important in how I express as well, how I express love.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, I suppose, this kind of results, it's anyways different in different areas of your life. Like in some areas of your life, for example, physical touch is the most important one, but maybe in other areas of your life, even in the same relationship of ours, but in a different area, then you care more about quality time or you care more about words of affirmation. Depending on like if we're talking about work stuff, or we're talking about our couple time, or if we're talking about the house that we co-live in. So I suppose it's if you have three strong ones, like in your case, I think I had two strong ones and the other one not so much, and the other two like very low. But if you have three or two strong ones, I suppose in different situations and different areas of your life, they, the one is more prevalent than the other one. Right, so...
and then, okay, actions to take. So, create special moments. Like Ray mentioned, we make an effort, like we remind each other every week to take time out for ourselves, to like, even throughout our days, it's not just like we actually actively want to have lunch together, spend some time in the morning together, spend some time in the evening together. Like we make time throughout our day to be together. So create those special moments. Take walks and do small things with your partner. So just the little things, like go watch sunset or drink a cup of tea or play a board game, or just anything that is, whatever you guys have in common. Like I said, whatever is that you love to do, put the phone away. Just be present with each other. This is presence. Presence is so important in a relationship for it to not get...
So remember, that is only if both of you, or at least one of you, has an important prevalence for quality time as a love language. Then even if it's not yours, but it's your partner's, it's still important that you look into it and try and communicate love in that area. Because even if it's not important to you, it's good for your relationship. This is like from an external angle, but it really is an overall good thing to do. Sit with each other, put the phone away, and freaking talk. That is something everyone should do, regardless of their love.
Yeah, no matter what your love language is, communication, which we'll have many talks about, because there's so many things to talk about in conversation, but the conversation is like essential. It's
a non-distracted environment.
Yeah, like the quality time.
And another important thing in quality time is that, for example, a good practice we have is every month we have been together, we have a date. So we celebrate every month.
Yeah.
And it's like 73 months right now.
And this is something that this is actually quite an interesting thing. We've been told by so many people we're super lame for doing this.
Yeah.
But it's really important. Yeah, but maybe not. And it's
buying gifts.
Like, oh, right.
You buy me a gift and I feel like awkward. Like, no, I don't want a gift. But if you had a gift love language, for example, your parents, they have that one. They
Yeah,
care
my
about
parents
presents.
love-
And when you receive a present from someone who cares about presents,
Then you gotta give.
not even a
gratitude.
fake it, like
For
you know,
real,
actually
yeah.
understand that that's how that person is giving you love.
Yeah, this is how this person's saying, I love you.
So maybe you want to go play video games with your friends, you want to go to the bar, but turns out that your partner wants to spend time with you, have dinner without the phone, and talk about things in their world that you maybe don't care for so much. But you can at least remember, well, this is this person loving me. That's how they express their love. They want to have dinner and talk. Maybe not your favorite thing, but you should still communicate in that language of theirs.
Yeah.
Now, what you should not do,
Things to avoid, guys, is distraction when spending time together. Distractions, like we mentioned, the phone, or getting up and, like, if you're in a conversation and get distracted and go and talk about something else, and not be fully present, not be actively listening, and a long time without one-on-one time. So this is actually, that's why I mentioned quality time being is one of the important ones for both of us, actually. And I remember many times in our relationship that the distraction one and the long time of no one-on-one time, like, it was present. Because within our love language, here's an interesting thing, within our love language of quality time, my version of quality time was different to Ray's version of quality time.
continues to be different in some ways.
Continues to be different. And for me, quality time is doing things like going on adventures, lying on the bed together, cuddling, doing the things we have in common, the fun things that we have in common. And that time that is not within your normal day-to-day life, for example, cooking together or washing the dishes, or because in my mind, I would have to do all these things even if you were not here. So for me, quality time in that sense is the one-on-one time in which we're not busy with something, when we're fully present. We're not just going through our day. And sometimes we've had this little argument of me saying we don't spend enough time together, and he's like, what are you even saying? We're together all, and I'm like, no, I mean quality time. We are spending quality time.
You literally have used those words.
I know, I'm literally repeating exactly.
Well, I have to defend myself here.
Go for it.
Trigger reaction.
Go for it.
No, I think even though it's the same need for quality time, in that situation, that was about like 2.5 years ago or 2 years ago, that we had. I remember we had friction because you wanted to go out on adventures and go to the beach, and I was more interested in being at home. I wanted to be with you, and I didn't want more people around. I wanted to be alone with you, but I wanted to be at home. And you wanted to be alone with me, but out there doing things. And because of that, even though we wanted the same, to be alone with each other, because we wanted to do it in different settings and for different, reasons, for different needs, it created friction anyways. And it took several long conversations and a couple of arguments for that to be fully understood in our relationship. Like, okay, quality time, I understand what you mean.
And this was like 4 years into our relationship.
Yeah.
This is something that took us a lot of time to figure out. And still, here we are, still figuring it out. Because sometimes still we're just like meaning different things within the same love language. And this is why it's so important to talk about it, because you will forever be discovering new things about it, which is exciting.
Yeah, and because you change as a person, and maybe you're more inclined in other things 10 years from now. So it's important to keep it on the table.
Everything is, we're always changing. We're always changing. I remember myself when we started our relationship.
Facebook memories is excellent for that.
Yeah, and you look back to the times and you're like, wow, I was really like this. And then there's no other answer other than to be proud of yourself, because if you think
You
about
definitely got better at stuff, right?
like
Give yourself
don't be so hard
pat
on
yourself
yourself.
on the back.
I am someone who's super hard on myself, so I am saying this because I know it's tough to be in that situation of being so hard on yourself.
Okay, I'm gonna describe the last one. We kind of like left it out, but I actually thought this was going to be my main one in the quiz, but I got quality time as the first one, and this was not even the second, was the third, so I was quite surprised. But it's called acts of service, like we explained before. It's a love language in which we do things for others, take care of their responsibilities, make their life easier by doing something for them, rather than buying something for them or giving them physical love, or in this case is you do something that you assume they didn't want to do and they would feel better because you did it for them. So how to communicate in this case, you let them know that you want to help. If you need anything, let me know, right? That kind of reaffirmation that if you need help, I'm there for you, and that you want to make their load lighter, and basically everything around it, right? So I am someone, this is why I thought that I was going to get this as number one. I am someone who's constantly doing things for other people, and it happens because I offer it. Because I assume people will be happy to hear, hey, if you need help, I'm here for you. Many times people want to get that help, and it creates chaos in my life because I said yes to many favors. But I thought, yeah, when I love someone, I want to do things for them. That is true, but it seems like in the couple in the couple relationship, I am more keen to spending quality time and giving physical touch to each other. But anyways, actions to take for someone whose love language is acts of service is cooking for them, making breakfast, bring it to bed, just be attentive. Taking care of something they had to do, like I mentioned, they're struggling with a report and it's getting late, and you're like, hey, can I help you? I'm here. That's like how to act on.
For the chores, like doing the laundry.
Yeah. Oh, honey, I did the laundry for you. Man, you're gonna get some score there. Gender roles there. It's a shattered glass.
Yeah, that's it.
Things to avoid for the person you love, whose love language is act of service, is what? Lacking follow through. Oh man, I hate this. I don't know what follow through is. You explained, I forgot. But lacking follow through on small and large tasks. What's that? You said you were gonna do it and you don't do it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So this person cares about acts of service, and you were meant to serve them in some way, you didn't.
Yeah.
You said you were going to, and you didn't. It bothers them a lot.
See, yeah. So for me, acts of service and gifts are very low in the list. They're not very present, guys, and it has caused conflict in relationships around me because people, as me, we have expectations. We have expectations about all of these 5 languages that we just spoke about right now. So all these 5 love languages, there are huge expectations that we place on each other that can cause a lot of conflict or frustration
And
or
hurt because you feel like you are not loved.
Yeah, it creates a gap between you. And then it's a spiral. It's like any of these. If the person you are with is not feeling loved through any of these love languages, they start doubting their self-worth. They start doubting if they are cared for, or if they're in the right relationship, or if you care about them, or if you even love them. And I'm sure you guys can see just by how we're explaining that it is such a vital thing to understand, because if you don't understand this, then you create all these stories. You're writing all these stories, these toxic stories in your relationship of what this is supposed to mean, instead of just speaking. Like, Oh, I remember doing this so much. I remember doing this so much in my relationships. Like,
Well, so story time.
assuming.
Tell us about that one relationship you were in.
So, gosh, not even one, just all my relationships. I remember this so much because physical touch so much. I'm a very affectionate. So, guys, since I've been very small, since I was a baby, I guess, I've always been very physically affectionate. Like, I've always been very warm and loving and affectionate and intimate, and physical touch is my way of showing love. And I was in many relationships in which my partner was not physically there, like physically absent. And I would create so many beliefs and so many thoughts, so many stories in my mind of how this person doesn't love me and I love this person more than they love me. And maybe I'm not good enough, right? Maybe I'm not worth that kind of love, right? It's a spiral. It's a toxic, endless spiral of believing bad things about relationships, believing bad things about yourself. And so I did this. And in every relationship, and another big one for me was quality time, like not getting to spend quality time. I remember this is a big one, actually, now that I think of it. I remember it being a big one that I had two ex-boyfriends, both of them that were like super into video games. They love playing video games for hours and hours and hours and hours. And we didn't spend quality time together. And it would really get to me the same way the physical touch thing would get to me. It would get to me. Like, doesn't this person want to spend time with me? Like, what's the deal? What did I do? Why do you want to spend time with me? What's the problem? And not saying I love you, or not being, the words of affirmation, right? All of these things, even in my relationship with you, it was present, still is present. But I remember in many relationships that I had this struggle of feeling this way, and it causing fights and conflict and a gap between us and a lot of pain. And so it was a trend that it was like my partner was not physically loving, or didn't spend time with me, or didn't use words of affirmation. And we were missing out on so much, because we could have had such good times. Like, you could have such a different experience if you're talking each other's language. Because if I was just open about, hey, this is how I express love and how I feel love, and they were open about the way that they are, right? If we even knew this stuff, then there would be more intimacy there. So if you're in a relationship and you're feeling like, there's no intimacy,
that's not.
This is something to dive into with your partner. But yeah, so my story is that it has been a struggle for my self-esteem, for how I feel about myself, for what I deserve. I believe I deserve in a relationship. And even in our relationship, it has been challenging from time to time. Like, we just told the story about us with the adventuring and going out, and we wanted the same thing but differently, and that caused a lot of friction.
Yeah, and there have been others around, other love languages. For example, let me actually tell a story of the one. I think it was about quality time, a quality time event. So it's the same love language around quality time. But I remember it happened a few times that we had plans and I canceled, or we had plans and I'm late because I'm on the phone with someone for too long, and then it's taking time of our special thing that we were going to do, quality time, that I didn't see with the same eyes, right? I didn't understand how you value this type of situation, because I didn't care about it so much before. Crazy now is the main one in my quiz, but I remember 6 years ago having an argument about this subject, because I didn't appreciate the quality time the same way you did. I think we have just gone like to the middle over the years.
In all of them, I think we've just gone
Probably,
to the middle.
yeah. At least the ones we care about.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean.
But the story is like I remember the first time. I don't know. It's a bit blurry, but I remember we were at friend's house in Rayon, and we were meant to do something before, and I was late, and then we had this like visit to our friend's house, and so while we were there, you were like unhappy, you were not in a good mood, and then when we were leaving, walking in the parking lot of their condo, you explained to me that it was like a combination of values and what your mom taught you, and a little bit of story of how your dad used to cancel on you all the time when you were a kid, right? So it is very possible that we shape our love languages out of our own experiences. I actually don't have the details on that, but it makes sense to think that.
And now I'm different. Now I'm super different. Now canceling is not a big deal for me. I don't mind. I don't get offended. Like, it's a completely different experience for me now than back then. I was super intense about it.
You joined me.
I got, yeah. Like, we have gone more to the middle in these things. Like, we have learned from each other, which is the cool thing of being in a relationship. If you have complementing characteristics.
So I think this is maybe a matter of controversy, but I would like to bring it up. You know, some people will say you are not supposed to change for someone. They're meant to love you the way you are. That doesn't mean the way you are is the best for you or the best for them or nothing similar. It's you are the consequence of what you have experienced and what tools you had in your hands while you experienced it. So it could be completely necessary to change.
I wouldn't say to look at it like that. I would say...
But like as an initial defense,
you're not supposed to change me. Yeah, but I think that's what I'm saying. In my opinion, what I'm trying to say, gosh, I'm like losing my words. What I'm trying to say is that it is... What is it that I'm trying to say? I lost it.
I don't know, you lost it. Well, what I was saying.
Oh, sorry, I wanted to... Okay, good. I'll try to remember.
What I was trying to say is what you said. No, what I was talking about is that in the process of remembering what you were saying.
I remember. Do you want to?
No, I forgot completely. Did you remember?
I remember.
Okay, say it.
Okay, so instead of changing or seeing it as the person changed, oh, now you remember. Instead of seeing it as changing the person, it's so much more powerful and useful to see it as growing and becoming a better version of yourself together as a couple. So a better version of you as individuals together as a couple. So go through that journey together as a couple, because that is what has happened so much for us. Like, we have grown so much just on taking each other on our journeys, our individual journeys, and having opposite things that we worked on. So it was easy to come to the middle in some things, and in other things it was really difficult. Like, it was so challenging.
Yeah, and I don't expect it to forever be at peace. Like, there's gonna be, because we will as individual change and clash in some things.
It's an endless journey. Like, all of this is an endless journey. It's never gonna be the same. Like,
but that sounds like hopeless. Come on.
It's an endless journey, but it's a beautiful journey. What I just mean endless is it's not like you're gonna arrive at a destination and then be there forever. Because if we're not changing, then if we're not growing and changing, like everything in the world, everything around us is constantly growing and changing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to make a podcast. We'd be playing outside. So
probably sleeping at this time.
Yeah, probably, because there would be no light. So everything is constantly changing. So it's just about, it's about that. It's about growing through the changes together and not changing each other, but just growing through life together and becoming the better version of yourself. So yes, that's what we were saying.
Sure. No, I really wanted to, now that I remember, I wanted to conclude on my idea that, yeah, some people could see it as, you're not supposed to change for your partner, they're meant to love you the way you are, etc. The truth is, like you said, you can't just focus on the same situation from a different angle, but the consequence is the same. If you have a tendency of 2 love languages and the other 3 you don't care about at all, but you happen to love someone who cares about one of those you don't care about, and it is something that you need to develop, because you love this person and you want to let them know you love them, and they're not going to change their love languages for you so quickly, neither you will change yours for them so quickly. It is a process that genuinely happens because you want to express your love to that person, and that person has some ways in which they feel they receive that message with more intensity.
And if it's challenging in the beginning, you can even just, after you've had this discussion, like, schedule it. Even if it's for yourself, even if you realize, like, okay, now I know my partner's love language is gifts, and I'm 0% about gifts. Put it in a calendar and make a point of now and then doing the gift thing, because it's important for this person, which is actually making me realize, because I don't do this to my most amazing best friend. Now and then I take her Starbucks, but she buys me all kinds of things. Like, she's always giving me gifts, but I take her Starbucks.
But because of being in that relationship, you feel drawn to improving at that, because like, you want to express your love.
I want to express. We have the words of affirmation in common, which is incredible. But I'm physical touch big time, and she's super against physical. Not super against, but she struggles with physical touch, and so we both of our core is the opposite. Like, the one that we struggle with is what the other one's is, which makes it the perfect friendship, because that means we get the opportunity to improve at these things. She gets to be more in touch with her physical touch as a love language, and I get to be more in touch with giving gifts. And it's a process. It takes time, but it's happening. Like, organically, it starts happening if you pay attention and and you care about making and putting the work in there to improve.
So how about we discuss the ripple effects of understanding your partner's love language? Well, your own, and your partner.
Yeah. So basically, it can improve so many different areas of your relationship. The first and most important one is that it improves communication within the relationship. So if you are realizing that, I don't know what my love language is, nor do I know what my partner's love language is, or maybe you have an idea, but like we mentioned, even within the same, we assume, and even within the same love language, there's differences, right? So to have that discussion and say, hey, and it's fun. It doesn't have to be an uncomfortable thing. This is not, you're not having to like open up or get super deep with your partner. So it's a great first step in the direction of better communication in your relationship, because if you are openly communicating and saying, let's figure out what our love languages are, you can do the quiz together, you're going to see the percentages, it's going to be super interesting, and then you can go for the idea of trying it out. Like we mentioned, try it out and schedule it into your calendar. Make it fun. There's a novelty to it. There's that excitement to the fact that you can now try these new things within your relationship. And another ripple effect of this means you now have a deeper understanding of your partner and yourself when it comes to your emotional needs within your relationship that you get from speaking each other's love languages more and more. So if you're trying this out and you're adding these things into your relationship, little bit by little bit, you're going to start feeling like, okay, I understand my partner more. So that means you'll be able to show them love more. And this means that there's an increased feeling of love and appreciation within your relationship. For both people at the same time or similar time, you are now starting to increase the feelings of love and appreciation within your relationship because you're starting to feel more love from your partner. And this will allow for feelings like my partner doesn't love me, or my partner loves me less than I love them, or to improve, for it to improve and then eventually disappear after a while, right? Everyone has a different timeline. So for some people, this might take a couple of months. For some people, it might take a year. For some people, a couple of weeks. But that idea of reinforcing the love language, getting better at communicating with it, will start creating a situation in which those feelings start to disappear.
Yeah, so when you start practicing speaking each other's love languages, understanding them, and speaking your partner's language, even if it's not yours, you have like a different way to the relationship. You enter a new flow. And this can be fun and brings many levels of novelty and excitement into the relationship. Back to the keeping the fire burning, it has a lot to do with that, because when there is a feeling of appreciation and care, making that extra effort of, speaking your partner's language a little bit more, getting out of your way to communicate love in a way that is more relevant to them, it creates a synergy. And that synergy is, on its own level, whatever level it is for you and your relationship. And it is that fire that is blazing there, and it's one of the several things that I would, in my own experience, say adds up to having a healthy and extraordinary relationship. Understanding each other's love languages and making the effort of getting better at a love language that might not be high up in your area of relevance, but for your partners it is an important one. And keeping in mind that this is something that will come up, you will change, they will change, and it will always be relevant to talk about this, to look inside and understand what you care about, and enjoy the benefits of keeping this type of practice in your relationship. Extra tip: your bed might be getting better too. Just saying.
Yeah, it improves intimacy and sex because you can apply all these love languages to your intimacy. Guys, our puppy is having a dream right now, and she's making...
She's dreaming.
She's dreaming. Okay, guys, so yes, what we were saying, sex and intimacy, yes, it can improve so much. You can apply all of these little things to your sex life. Like if it's gift giving, you can buy your partner some lingerie, or you can buy yourself lingerie and get undressed and do a nice little show for your partner. Physical touch, that's a self-explanatory. Let's not get too much into it. In another episode, we'll get into that. And words of affirmation, telling your partner how sexy they look, telling them how much you enjoy each other while you're in the act of enjoying each other. So yes, all of these love languages and understanding your partner specifically and yours specifically will improve your intimacy and sex.
Well, my personal take on the subject, if I didn't add enough, no, would just be a recommendation. Bringing this on the table, even in not necessarily with your relationship, like romantic partner, but maybe with your parents, with your best friends. This is a very important thing in life, and having good relationships romantic relationships, because it might turn into family, and then it's going to be the foundation for some other humans. So it's really relevant in that context. And this is one of the pillars. And sharing this information is relevant to anyone. And so I would just, invite you to continue this conversation elsewhere, mention it to someone and read up about it. I mean, there's more to it than what we are able to share in this format, but it's a really interesting subject, and I was mind blown when this came to my life for the first time, like I mentioned, and it might be the case for some of you. So if that's the case, just make sure you share this with someone you care about, and share your thoughts in the comment section. Just interact and share it around, because it's very relevant. So I just wanted to add that personal note there.
Thank you for sharing.
always a bit too long, but working on that.
Yeah, guys, we both talk a lot, as you might notice, because we're already getting close to a bit over an hour already. But okay, we're gonna end this in a few minutes. So my personal take is the same. It was very mind-blowing for me when I found out about love languages, and like I mentioned, I could go back and think about my past relationships and how all these stories I told myself created how I felt about myself, how I felt about my partner, how I felt about my relationships, and how I felt this lack of deserving. And so learning about it really made the difference. And even if you are not in a relationship, like Ray already mentioned, for family, for friends, it's so important, because this can cause a gap even with friends. It can cause a gap and break friends apart, break family members apart, parents and kids apart. So even if you're a parent, figure out what your kids' love language is and do this with them. Do a little quiz if they're at an age in which they can, and just... It is a very powerful tool, and even if you are single, you're gonna get into relationships in the future. So if you are aware of this already about yourself, you can share this with your new partner in the future, and you can start from a more solid foundation, just with an extra tool there to help you on your journey.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Always more concise and to the point. Thank you for being that character in our show.
You're welcome. Sometimes I go around in circles too. So, okay, guys, this is it from us for today. So, please, if you enjoyed listening, if this gave you any value, please drop the little subscribe, hit the little subscribe or follow button. Give us a thumbs up, please. And in the comment section below, please tell us which was your biggest aha moment, or share with us your thoughts, your opinions, your disagreements.
What is your love language?
What is your love language?
So down below we'll leave also the link to the quiz,
Yeah,
you guys can try it out and share it with your loved one and get this conversation started.
And there's also some little points of tasks. So I just explained to take the quiz, and then if you're in a relationship, I give you some steps to use it further. But you can do this with your kids, your parents, your friends. Okay?
All right. So, just would like to also mention what we're going to be discussing in the next episode. This time not improvised, actually, we prepared it.
We planned it this time.
So the topic is how your beliefs about relationships are shaped and what impact they have. So next week we'll be diving into this subject. Oh, this one is a juicy cultural programming and values and morals.
Oh, this is a good one.
Interesting.
This one might be 2 hours. No, I'm joking. We will never do that to you guys. Maybe in the future, but no, I think an hour is enough.
An hour is enough.
An hour is enough of your time.
And we're way past it, so we're not going to take more of your time.
We are very happy to be doing this, guys. This is our second episode. Yeah.
We're doing it.
High five, my love.
Well done.
Doing it.
All right, people, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening in. And we look forward to sharing next week's topic with you.
See you next week, amigos. Bye bye.
Peace. Bye, guys.
Adios.